Hi friends, glad to be back today. And today I really get a special treat. I have two awesome people in the studio with me. We're going to be talking about addiction, recovery, self-care, and also how to really look at something from a different angle. About how sobriety is not about white-knuckling it, stress, fear. It's about a happy life, a different type of life, and finding a new perspective. Joining me on the far right is Michael Molthan. Michael Molthan from M2theRock Radio is here joining us live in studio.
Thank you, Ashley, for having us. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you here. Tim Ryan is also joining us. Tim, you have a show on A&E. Could go through some of your accolades with us real quick.
Guest of the 2016 State of the Union address, wrote up in Newsweek magazine as one of the 18 most interesting guests. Plethora of other things. I work full-time for Transformations Treatment Center, executive director of a Man in Recovery Foundation, a nonprofit, and I have Tim Ryan Speaks. I speak all over the country on the drug and opiate epidemic.
Obviously, he doesn't do enough stuff. Okay, well, you probably need some more accolades in there. So Michael, which is great. Michael, you've had the show since January. It's almost been a year now. You've been on the show on the radio. And how did you connect with Tim to begin with?
Well, I connected with Tim through social media as I was, starting my journey in recovery again. I got blessed and had the opportunity to start a relationship with iHeart Radio, and we started M2theRock Radio. And in free time and trying to build content for the show, I wanted to get like-minded people to be able to share their experience, strength, and hope to spread the message. And, the formula that I like to be surrounded with are people who spread the message, not the disease. They're constantly in solution. And I saw a deal on TED Talk with Tim Ryan, and I said, I want what this guy has. This guy speaks my language. And through a network of people and guests that have been on the show, we kind of built up some time and we got some skins behind us on the show. And I felt confident enough that I could go to Tim Ryan saying, hey, I think we got something. I'd like for you to be on the show. And we've created a great relationship where it's a friendship today. I reach out to Tim when I need help and vice versa. And we're here for each other. And that's what recovery is about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, Tim, let's start out. A lot of folks that are watching this video right now, either they're thinking about maybe getting sober, maybe there is a drug or alcohol addiction, or maybe they have gotten sober and they're just walking the walk. How did you get here? Kind of give me a bird's eye view of kind of how you got to us today.
Through sobriety?
Mm-hmm.
I hopped on an airplane and flew here.
You had a little delay on the airplane, too, if I'm not mistaken.
My journey, I was a successful business entrepreneur. I was a competitive water skier. I was married. I had a wife and 4 kids. But I struggled with addiction, and I was in and out of 12-step-based meetings for 35 years. 14 months into being clean, not working a program, I picked up heroin. That took me down another 12-year road to utter hell and destruction, ultimately landing me in the Illinois Department of Corrections for the second time. I'd overdosed while driving. Hit a couple cars, almost killed 4 people. I did 13 and a half months in Sheridan Prison. In Illinois, there's 28 prisons. 2 have therapeutic drug treatment programs run by WestCare, and by the grace of God, I get into one. That's where I surrendered. That's where I plugged into recovery. In that 13 and a half months, my wife of 16 years divorced me. We lost our home in foreclosure due to my addiction. My oldest son was in active addiction. When I walked out for the first time in my life, I was 13 and a half months clean and sober. I plugged into recovery, started some support groups, started my foundation, and then on my 21-month sobriety date, my 20-year-old son, Nicholas, succumbed to a heroin overdose. And I had 2 choices at, go to a meeting or go get high. I went to a meeting. Since my son passed away August 1st of 2014, I've buried over 130 people. We've assisted over 4,000 into treatment. In the past 9 days, every day I've received a phone call on somebody passing away. The way I will end this is, in the emergency room, my former wife, as we're over our son, said, I hate God, blank God, he didn't answer my prayers. And I said, Shannon, what I'm going to say is going to sting, but you need to listen to me. So maybe God did answer our prayers. It's just not the answer we're looking for. And 2 weeks later, we had lunch, and my former wife looked me dead in the eyes and said, Tim Ryan, for once in my life, I'm behind you 1,000%. She said, I want you to run your foundation, help people run your groups. I don't want any mother going through what I went through, because heroin took you, my husband, our beautiful home, and my firstborn son. She said, I truly believe God put Nick and I in your life for a reason. Had you go through your struggles, had Nick go through his, for Nick to pass on to set the stage for what you're going to do next. And the past 35 years of my active addiction were my training ground for what I do today. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone. People think I've got this glamorous life, but I deal with a lot of sickness. I deal with a lot of self-destruction. I deal with a lot of death. But there is hope out there, too. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. And then God blessed me with the oops. I have a 3-year-old daughter by the name of Mackenzie now. So
love that.
God called one home, blessed me with another, and
Congratulations.
I've been given a second shot at being a father too, which is truly amazing. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
That's amazing. And it's interesting because when you have a story that's that profound, we have an ability to do two things, right? We can actually use it to help other people, or we can actually be destroyed by it. And I think, Michael, you know, as a testimony from what you've gone through and on previous videos that you've seen on this channel, you know, Michael, you were in and out. How many times in and out of jail?
I have 27 mugshots.
Okay, 27
starting
mugshots.
at the age of 43. You know, at the age of 43, I got arrested the very first time, and that very first arrest was devastating. It was absolutely devastating, and I said, I'll never do this again. And I thought that was my bottom. And when I bonded out, I was drunk and high that night. And after, you know, numerous arrests, I realized what powerlessness really is. You know, where I sit there, and Tim can relate, where we swear on our life, we swear on our mom that we're not going to drink or do drugs today, and we're high by noon, and we can't tell you why. And so that's where this disease, you know, led me.
So let me ask y'all, okay, so when it comes to self-care, which is such a big thing nowadays, you know, when we're talking about, you know, being healthy, being happy, health and wellness, self-care, and that's like the big buzz, right? How do you begin to do that, you know, from your perspective? What are some things that are incremental that you have to do every day to keep in check, to be focused, and to stay on the right track, to deal with what you've dealt with in the past, but to be a better person every day?
So self-care for me is just what it means, taking care of self. When I was in prison, I never got a TV. I didn't go to the gym to get swole. I wasn't there to play. I was there to change. I mean, 18 hours a day in the cell. My cellmate and I, a former Chicago gang chief, went through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, CNA basic text, read hundreds of books, wrote the business plan for my foundation. When I got out of prison, same thing. I got another sponsor. I put recovery and God first. For 2.5 years, I never missed a meeting. Never. What I had to do was put recovery number one, and the doors started to open. Even with my son passing, I had two choices that day. Go to a meeting, and I went to a meeting that night. I never thought of using because that obsession and compulsion had been lifted. I mean, my routine is I get up, I hit my knees. I thank the Lord I'm alive. I read a couple meditation books. I try to meditate, I can get about 2 minutes. My mind moves. Usually I hit about 3 meetings a week. I still have a sponsor. I still sponsor one person in alcohol because that's what I am first and foremost, but I have quality time with my family. I have balance. I have a very chaotic life. Last weekend we went up to my parents for an early Thanksgiving, and my former wife was there, all our kids, my new wife, my stepchildren, our daughter. Family is everything to me, but without my recovery, I have none of this. And my work, what I do, has nothing to do with my recovery. That's my career. That's my job. I like to barefoot water ski. I still skydive. I like to spend time with my kids, you know, whether it's going golfing, going to Topgolf, or going bowling, whatever they want to do. And they're older now, but I have to make time for them. I have to put the cell phone away. Having dinner at home a couple nights a week with my wife and my daughter, that's very important. Because it's such a chaotic world we live in, and I need to know when I need to disconnect and take time for myself, because if I don't take time for myself, how can I help anybody else?
That's so true. Between meditation and prayer are so incremental, and I know that a lot of folks say, well, hey, I don't really understand how to meditate. Meditate's really hard, and I get that. It's all about breathing and breathing exercises and how many breaths in and out that you do. I do 6 breaths in, 6 breaths out, just to start calming the body. But there's also going out in nature. There's also just being mindful, ridding yourself of that constant thought, being aware of the negative thought process, and being able to eliminate that and move that out. And I like to use I have a little trick. I came up with this about 15 years ago. I remember those little Nerf guns, that you would shoot out the little, what was that? What is that made out of?
Those darts, the little foam darts?
Yeah, the little foam darts.
Yeah.
And I would actually see, so when I would have a negative thought or something like, I'm never going to get this, or I'm never going to be successful at that, or I'm horrible at this, or whatever, I would actually visualize myself, knocking that out with one of those foam darts, and I would let the thought poof out of my head. And then eventually I would work to be very mindful and to have a quiet mind. Because a lot of times we hear the process, people say, oh, well, do affirmations, do all that. Well, you can't add great stuff to crap. It's like having poop and then having perfume on top of the poop. It's not going to work. You got to get rid of the poop first, right? Which is the negative thought process. So that's something I do on a daily basis. Michael, do you meditate? I know you're a big believer in prayer. What else do you do to stay mindful in your life?
I do, and I want to dovetail off what Tim said. I agree with everything that he said, and some of the simple stuff on self-care, and I'll get into meditate, just getting a good amount of sleep, Heck, I hadn't slept in 43 years. I've been going full speed, wide open, whether it be, drugs, alcohol, work, chasing the almighty dollar, and number one, getting sleep, and simplifying my life. Getting a real good structure routine of life, and incarceration taught me that. I learned so much being incarcerated about how to just simplify my life. Prayer meditation is very important to me. I would be lying to you if I said, I hit my knees every single morning and I had this long King James Version prayer that I would go through. I don't do that. I hit my knees a lot, but I'm in constant contact with God today. I talk to God all the time. I mean, he's my friend. He's my partner. I need him. And meditation for me, yes, breathing, being at peace, being quiet with myself. Yes, I do that. I work on that. But meditation to me is hearing God. And I hear God through Tim Ryan. I hear God through you. I hear God in my recovery group meetings when I'm sitting still and listening to other alcoholics and drug addicts sharing their experience, strength, and hope, and sharing their solutions on how to get through the day. And I hear God talk through them, and that's when I start nodding my head like this. Because when I nod my head like this, I'm like, yeah, okay, talk to me, God, give me more, okay? I never did that drinking and doing drugs when someone would talk to me. I was like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Because I didn't care what they said, because I'm selfish and self-seeking. So that's where meditation is for me, Prayer is talking to God. Meditation is hearing God, and that's how I hear him.
And another key aspect is it's who you surround yourself with. Right. You talk about toxic thoughts and all that. If you're surrounded by toxic people, you're going to live in a toxic society. Okay. Whether it's recovery, a sponsor, or mentor. I have mentors in life outside of recovery, whether it's a therapist, it's a business associate, it's a spiritual advisor. I have to surround myself with winners that I can constantly learn from, because if not, you're dead in the water. And I keep my inner circle is very small. I don't let a lot of people into it. Because I don't like to get hurt. Because I don't like to get hurt, or I told you they were going to do this, but my time is valuable. And, my close friends, I'm able to come into town here, and a friend of mine, Casey, I get to spend a couple days with her. She gets to come hang out with us. Those are the things that are important to me. Quality time with a friend. We talk on the phone, but when I'm here and I get to do that, that's what it's all about.
I agree 100%.
And you too, Mike.
Thanks.
Get to hang with you.
Thanks, man. Hang with the winners.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really interesting when you do talk about toxic family, toxic relationships, and I think that's something that many of us aren't really aware of, especially when it comes in the form of a family member or a close friend, or even when it comes in the form of a spouse. But also we have to look within ourselves to find, what is it that they're mirroring within us? But what do you do to change that situation? We just recently did a show on, dealing with toxic family members after, going through recovery, being sober for a certain period of time. How do you deal with it? And, some of the answer was, well, you limit your amount of time, you structure it, what have you. But sometimes when it's a really toxic thing, you just don't you don't continue down that path because we know how that's going to end. And what is your consideration for that when you're dealing with somebody gone through the program, sober, and there's time that they need to go see the family, but you know that this family dynamic with them is toxic. What do you tell them? What is your information that you give them?
It's as I would give a parent having a child or whatever, young adult that's still in active addiction, and sometimes you gotta kick them out. Doesn't mean you can't go have lunch with them. Sometimes you gotta love them from a distance, and if you are going to see them, have an out and have your boundaries, because a lot of people don't. On the flip side, I have an individual in treatment right now, and I talk to the therapist. I get updates every week, and they said this kid's mother is driving us up a wall. Right. She's calling the treatment center 10, 15 times a day. So I finally got on with her yesterday, and I said, you need to go get some help. You need to see a therapist or go to Al-Anon or Families Anonymous or something. I said, you're disrupting. You can't call 15 times. You can't call at all. Let him call you. Let the journey take its place. But you are so codependent on your addict son that you don't know what to do now that he's getting well. Well, he's going to get out. He has nowhere to go. He's going to be homeless. I said, no, he's not. He's going to have to live in a shelter. I said, my foundation already agreed to pay for a 90-day stay in a sober home for him. So but it's on both sides. When a family gets well, the addict gets well. It's as simple as that.
That's true, and I think we've spoken about this before. When I work with clients, a lot of times in my office, being a therapist, you'll have folks, and I'll specifically talk to certain people that I know are in toxic environments. I'll say, please don't let them know that you are seeking therapy at this point, because the last thing you want them to know is to get that, hey, ding, 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 I'm seeking therapy, I'm getting better, I'm working on me, while the other people are still toxic. They don't want them getting any better.
So you just hit the nail on the head, whether it's a husband or wife. We're married. I'm the alcoholic. I go get sober and get well. Sometimes our marriage falls apart because you don't want me to get well.
Exactly.
And why do you have to go to all these meetings? Why are you spending time with these people? Sometimes you can just never do the right thing. So what I have to do is I have to be true to myself. As my former wife did, she divorced me in prison. Best thing she could do and needed to happen, but we're best friends today. I needed to go through that, but on the flip side, people need to know, but you've got to go to the right people that can get. All I can do is give guidance and direction. All I can do is instill hope. What you do is up to you. Sometimes people haven't had enough pain. Sometimes people pack up and move away and get on with their lives. I'm responsible for my own happiness, and I'm responsible for the people I bring into my life. And believe me, 95% of the people I associate with are in recovery. That's the way I roll today. I don't have time for my old drinking and partying buddies, and I'll see them from a distance. Hey, how you doing? I'm moving on.
We've changed everything.
Yeah.
We've had to change everything with love. It doesn't mean we don't like them. We just can't ride with them.
That's so smart. I mean, you're right. It's all about who we spend time with. It's about where our mindset is, where our heart is. But you're right. When you're spending time with people, whether they're doing the right thing or they're doing the wrong thing, eventually that is going to rub off on us. Mm-hmm. And I think also, though, when you are doing the right thing and you are sober, you've done this, and you have a lot of friends that aren't sober and they're still grappling with the situation, there's going to be a lot of self-talk in their own mind that you're putting them down or you're making judgment calls on them. And so eventually the relationship has to eventually move because it's going to be divided anyway. Because if you don't continue in and go back in and have drinks or drug or whatever, they're feeling judged anyway. So they're going to go off on their own thing anyway. So you can run after that and chase it. But at some point in time, you have to say, okay, my whole life has to change. I guess everything has to change.
You know what's really interesting? November 1st, I had 6 years sober. And I went to the prison I was in and had a sign, living in recovery, whatever it said. But the amount of messages I get through Facebook or Instagram from people I grew up with, Tim, I never told you, but we're so proud of you. You helped this. The people that I've been able to guide and direct, people that I never associated with because I was toxic to them growing up, but they see what I do now. It's cool. I'm
seeing the same thing. The exact same thing. It's amazing.
I had a message today from a mother that said, Tim, I just want to thank you. You've been helping my son. 8 months ago, you got him into treatment again. He's been in drug court. He just got out of the sober home. But unfortunately, he used yesterday and died from a fentanyl overdose. And I want to know that we support you. We support your foundation. And then she asked me if I'd come speak at his wake and asked me what I charge. I said, I won't charge anything. This is what I do. But I'm sick of burying people. I need to be there for that mother now who just lost her child and still supports me. And I mean, it's not easy. And this isn't for everybody. I mean, I work with therapists just for myself because I deal with so much death and destruction. So, almost got emotional there.
That's good.
It's powerful.
That's reality.
Well, and I agree with you. I mean, you know, death is a cycle. You know, we're all in the cycle of life. But I understand where you're at. But it's the compassion for the human condition that keeps you doing what you're doing. It's that compassion and that love and, you know, being there no matter what. And you're right, for her to reach out and say, hey, we still appreciate everything you did. You did everything, you know, but this happened. And to be there is powerful. And then to have that message that there's going to be people in that audience, in that group of mourners that are mourning the loss of that person, and you're going to speak to somebody in that room or speak to somebody's that's going to change their life, and then there's going to be that ripple effect. And I know, Michael, that's why you do the show all the time. I know, Tim, that's why you speak and you do every show and every documentary and everything you've ever done, is that we care enough to try to push it forward. And if you can connect with as many people as possible, that's powerful.
Yeah. And you just don't know when it's going to sink in. I'll get calls, hey, I talked to you 2 years ago. You came here. I'm ready for help now. All right, let's go. You know, and hopefully they get to that point because people got you either get sober, you're going to end up in jail or prison if you're lucky, or you're going to die.
That's the 3 guarantees.
That's it.
That's the 3 guarantees to getting clean and sober.
In the life I have today, that happiness I was seeking through making money, through nice toys and boats and motorcycles, I was the most loneliest person in the world, making millions of dollars. Wow. I have more happiness right now than I could ever imagine.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's interesting when from the outside looking in, and I think we've seen that through many of the suicides, many of the deaths, many of the folks that have OD'd, especially that are famous celebrities. Sure. You know, we think they have everything. They got a show, they got this, they got all these, items, money, everything, and at the same time, they're very unhappy.
Some of the loneliest people in the world. You know, money, fame, and people perceive this at. Believe me, I know a lot of. I was supposed to be in an event last night with Magic Johnson and Dr. Drew. Of course, I got caught in a blizzard, but I know a lot of very famous people. I know a lot of wealthy people. I know a lot of miserable people. Just because you have money and fame, we all breathe the same air. We all bleed red. The hardest thing for anyone to do is this. I need some help. I'm struggling because of ego, pride, especially celebrities and people that have undisposable income, because it's very difficult for them to hit a bottom and get humble.
Yeah. You know, the common denominator that I see in what we're talking about all this with all, from the man underneath the bridge to the celebrity, the difference is the bridge. That's the only difference. And based on my personal experience, I was reviewing my mug shots. I do it a lot when I go speak, because people flash them up on the screen and stuff like that. And I was looking at them. And the common denominator in these mug shots was one thing for me. There was no spirituality whatsoever. I was spiritually bankrupt in every one of these mug shots. And when people say, Michael, what's the difference today? Okay, you've been released from jail, prison now, okay? What's the difference? What's different this time? And the difference is simply this. I can, number one, finally answer that question. Because before, I'd say, don't worry about it. I'd get angry. And I'd get angry because I didn't have an answer. But the difference today is I finally realized for me, in order for God to set me free, not from incarceration, like what Tim was talking about, being free inside, okay? For God to set me free, I had to set the people around me free. And that's the real deal for me and my addiction, is that resentment is the number one offender. It kills more drug addicts than anything else, and alcoholics. And that's what Tim and I talk about. That's the common denominator, because it's not fentanyl, it's not cocaine, it's not heroin, it's not bars, whatever you want to do it, okay? That's the symptom. The real problem is these resentment, fear, anger, isolation, paranoia. And today I have tools, working with a mentor like Tim Ryan, working with another alcoholic and drug addict. They give me tools on how to process fear. Okay, because the way I used to process fear was with drugs and alcohol, and I didn't care what the consequences were going to be.
You know, there's the old analogy, if an issue will get you drunk, what's the issue?
That's good.
And it's not that the dog pooped on the carpet, the wife divorced you, lost another job. Alcohol was the issue. Drugs were the issue. But I use those as my solution to all my problems. Guess what? You take those away, I still had problems. And people ask me today, do you have problems in your life? I don't have one. I have situations I need to attend to, and I attend to them. I don't have problems. Drug and alcohol cause all my damn problems. I don't have any today.
Right, and the great thing in recovery is, and we talked about this on the show the other day, is we don't have bad days anymore. We have bad moments. We'll have a bad moment, but we work through it, and now the bad moments make us stronger. Because we turn that bad moment to God. God uses that moment to say, okay, now go tell the world I'm God. And we get stronger.
Powerful. So that leads me into my last question for today, because I think this is where a lot of people are on the fence. I think there's a big difference between being sober and being still stressful, still fear-based, still anger, resentment, white-knuckling at everything you can think of, to, you know, sobriety, happy, grateful sobriety. You know, from a small example of my own, I smoked for a number of years, and when I quit smoking the first time, I was the biggest asshole. Okay, when I would go into a restaurant and people were smoking, I'd make a big deal of it. I would talk to the manager. I couldn't stand smokers, hated this. I can't believe this. I'm going to have to go somewhere else. This is BS. And it was funny because I know this is about cigarette smoking, but some of y'all can relate, but it's not the same, but it's still an addiction. Okay, and I quit, but I was angry. I was resentful. When people would smoke around me, I'd get very angry about it. How you have no respect for me and this and that. And then I started smoking again. So after 7 years quit, I started smoking again. I smoked for about 2.5 years. And when I quit, I remember 2 days after I quit, I could be around it. It didn't bother me. Somebody would even smoke and be like, hey, I'm sorry about that. I'd be like, no, it's fine. It's okay. I could sit next to somebody smoking. Okay, not that I love to smoke, but it didn't bother me. And I realized I was finally content. I didn't have to smoke. And it didn't bother me what everybody else did, because I didn't care about what everybody else was doing. For the first time, I just cared what I was doing. And I was happy in what I was doing. And I know it's different from drugs and alcohol, but it was still an addiction.
It's not different.
It's not. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's still an addiction.
Sex, alcohol, drugs, gambling,
food,
shopping. Look,
shopping.
See what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
shopping.
we have to do intervention.
I'm telling you, you know.
So, but I know y'all both see this a lot. You see people that literally, they're sober in the words of sobriety, but they are really not doing the work.
No, especially with what I see and Mike sees, there's recovery advocates and all these social media people. And, you know, I can walk into a meeting and there's 30 people. 10 are on BS, 10 are on the fence, and 10 are plugged in. You can see who's truly living it because they don't need to talk it. Their actions speak for themselves. Right. But if you've got to talk, and I call these people clowns, because there's so many clowns out there that just don't get it. And I spoke at an event this summer, and Mike was there. There was 60 people in recovery there and all speaking, and I got up and I lit the place up. I said, this is an absolute joke. This is a waste of time. I didn't travel 6 hours here to speak with 59 people that are in recovery. Where's the community? Where's this? And I said, I'll guarantee a bunch of you are using right now, and you wear the mask. You wear the next day, one of the guys OD'd. I went to an event 2.5 years ago in Portsmouth, Ohio. There was 30 people there that were advocates, or whatever you want to call them. I think there's 5 of us that are clean and sober today.
Wow.
Most people do this for the wrong reasons, because people get clean or sober or whatever, and they're on that pink cloud, and, I want to have a radio show. I want to have a podcast. I want to be a speaker. I'll have people do that. Tim, I want to do what you do. Really? Make millions, lose millions. Go to prison, lose absolutely everything, get out of prison, turn your life around, have your son die that you set the stage for, go to a meeting, stay sober, then you can do what I do. You can't do what I do. Do what you do the best you can, but you've got to, recovery is a lifestyle. It's not just going to a meeting. Anybody can go to a meeting. That's easy. But like you said something brilliant there. I changed within me, and you were doing you. And if you want to smoke, cool. But you were white knuckling it prior, and I see a lot of people, and they spit this spew, and I feel bad for them. But I stay in my lane. I do me. I don't care what other people do.
That's incarceration talk, and that's what we heard you saying. Stay in your lane.
Yeah, that's what I was
Stay in your
doing.
lane. Do you. You just do you.
And too many people worry about the wrong shit.
Right.
Too many people worry about the wrong stuff. And if I'm worried about what Mike's doing, and you're doing, and you're doing, and you're doing, how do I focus on myself? And everybody has their talents, but everyone's not a radio host. Everyone's not going to be a therapist. Everyone can't do what I do. I can't do what George does back there behind the camera. I can't do it. You could sit me and teach me. I don't know. I don't comprehend that stuff. But he's awesome at it.
Yeah.
People need to stay in their lane with what they're good at and the gifts God gave them and apply them. But recovery, the 12 steps, I live a 12-step based program, starts with an A, ends with an A. You could probably figure it out. The 12 steps, once I worked them with the sponsor and sponsored some people, gave me the tools and the opportunity to live the life I do today, traveling all over the country and doing these great things I get to do, but I'll never forget where my roots came from. And that I don't need to go to meetings. I want to, because I like to see that new person walk in, because it reminds me of where I was a little over 6 years ago.
This is the language I love right here. I mean, this we call it the language of the heart, is the way he's talking, the spirit. And, you know, and I agree, you know, when I was incarcerated, and y'all know my story, being miraculously released, okay, the radio show and TV had never entered my mind in my entire life. You know, this is not what I was going to do. I was going to hopefully get a job at Home Depot or Lowe's and do something, and I was going to go to meetings and just live life on life's terms, okay? But I've learned through this, and that's when I said when God sets us free, then we stay out of the way and we let God use, and He'll use our talents, you know, for His victory. And that's what He's done with Tim. He's done with me. He does with you. Is that it's a great life when we do what God wants us to do. All right, because if I wanted to be a football player for the Dallas Cowboys, I would be very, very frustrated because they would continue to tell me to go home. You know, so that's not right. That's not what God's plan is. But so I'm doing exactly what God has, you know, directed me to do, and it's rewarding. You know, Tim talks about, you know, burying people all the time. Tim also talks about the people that have crossed his path, that he shares the gift with, that was given to him. The great things that Tim Ryan says, that I say, was given to us. We have to remain being the student. Once I try to be the teacher, look out. It's not going to be good. But once if I continue being the student and just give away what's been given to me, that's the fun part about recovery, is someone calling Tim up and saying, hey, I've been clean 3 years, Tim. Remember when we very first met? Remember I was that $2 needle junkie?
Yeah, I get that. I get that a lot. And just like, you know, last week I did your little buddy Marty and Brian's show, and I said I'd give away 20 books. Well, I ended up giving away, I think, 70 books.
Wow.
So I signed them all, mailed them out. But now the messages I'm getting from people, that's what it's about, you know. Thank you. This gave me hope. Or I read your book in prison, and I wanted to kill myself that night. And I never put your book down, and you gave me hope that if you could do it, I can do it. And now I'm 2 years out of prison. I'm with whatever it is. But people have a choice, too. I have a choice to change or not. But it comes back to the relationship, the meditation, the prayer, the people you circle with.
And we have fun. We're a family. I know. I mean, we're rolling this, but I mean, I put you in the M2 group on Facebook Messenger of the guys I hang out with, so you can witness this.
Can you delete me out of that, please? But, no, I'll stay with you.
But we have. But you see the family and the dialogue, and that's the beautiful thing about recovery, is we get to have fun with each other and all of that. But at the end of the day, if I am in Tulsa, Oklahoma, out on a dirt road, raining, no money, no transportation, no food, if I call Tim Ryan, he's going to come get me. I know that.
Absolutely.
I know that. There are a lot of people that won't do that. You know why? Because of stigma. Dude, there you go again. You did it again. Tim Ryan's going to come get me because you know why? He can relate. And there's a lot of addicts and alcoholics that would do that. And here's the beautiful thing about recovery in the community. There's a lot of drug addicts and alcoholics that don't even know me that would come get me because we can relate. We don't shoot the wounded. And that's what's amazing about the fellowship of recovery.
And lasting thoughts, for the viewer, for our friends out there who are watching this, and anybody that's kind of on the fence and really wants to make some changes. Do you have any thoughts on what they can do to maybe get a hold of their feelings and make a positive move in the right direction?
Yeah, put your damn hand up and ask for help. The hardest thing for anyone to do is admit defeat, admit there's a problem. First thing you got to do is put your hand up and ask for help. And it doesn't have to be struggling with alcohol or drugs. It could just be life. It could be a relationship. It could be depression. It could be mental health. But once you put your hand up and get vulnerable, then the doors can open. But you have to put your hand up first before anybody can give you any guidance or direction. And go to the right people.
Yes.
Exactly. I tell people if they're wanting to go to my treatment center, don't just talk to me. Talk to the clinical director. Talk to our addictionologist or psychiatrist. Get all the info you need prior to coming. Same with you. You don't, oh, yeah, come on in, I'm the best. No. Here, you want to talk to some references? You want this?
Right. I agree with what Tim said 100%. Raise your hand, ask for help. And let me add on to it is that we get honest. That's step one. Just admit that you're powerless over alcohol, drugs, pornography, gambling, whatever it is that has your life unmanageable.
M2 the radio show. Totally unmanageable.
Cut. But anyways, it's also, here's the thing that I tell a lot of people. It's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say, I don't know. Michael, why do you drink? Why do you do drugs? Why do you continue to do this? You know what, Ashley? I don't know why, and I need help. I don't know why I do this. I cannot figure it out, and that's exactly right. I can't figure it out. And people who are in recovery, if you're struggling with alcohol, you're struggling with drugs, get with someone in recovery that can speak your language.
Powerful. Well, I appreciate both of y'all coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Michael's going to drop that mic here in just a moment with his mic drop. But, honestly, for anybody out there, this is a community. There is no stupid questions. It's just about realizing that being vulnerable is key. And I think a lot of times we misconstrue vulnerability. We think that it's something bad. We think that it shows our weaknesses. And it's quite the opposite. And so when we are able to be vulnerable and straight up and ask those questions of people and going to the right people to ask the questions, don't go to people that are right in the middle of it with you. Don't go to the people that have put you down in the past. Go to the people that are right to ask the questions. And they might not be the right person, but they'll lead you to the right place. Right here is a great place to be in the comment section. If you have a question for Michael, if you have a question for Tim, if you have a question for myself, ask it. Okay? And if people in this community have a problem with people asking, then they don't have to be a part of the community. Because the part is that this is supposed to be helpful to people, and this is supposed to give people not only hope but the knowledge to make the changes they need to make. I hope this video has helped you. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, I put together these videos to help everybody in different stages of their life. And so this might not be something that really is connected to your life right now, but it could be a family member or a friend. It could be somebody that you come into contact on a daily basis that needs to see this information, needs to see this content. And so please remember that. And do yourself a favor. I mean, we all have an amazing quality that we have. We can do one thing better than anybody on this entire planet. When we begin to listen to ourselves and take care of ourselves and be more mindful, stop thinking about everybody else and looking at where they are and what lane they are, we can actually focus on us. We begin to be very powerful, and we realize that we too have this ability, and we are good about it, and we are good people, and we deserve to care about ourselves and respect ourselves and have our own self-worth. In the meantime, don't forget to live your true life.